Hey there guys, welcome back to the Retribution update for Overwatch. Today we are going to be talking about some of the balance changes that have been added to the game with this latest patch. These changes include buffs to Reaper and Mei and slight nerfs to D.va and Zenyatta. They've also added in an avoid as teammate feature to help you avoid those players in your SR that are either throwing games or being toxic, but we will of course discuss that a little bit later on. So, starting us off here today are the Reaper changes. These have been on the PTR for a few weeks now, and they've been brought to the live server just in time for the Retribution update. Anyway, the changes are as follows. Death Blossom now reloads his shotguns upon completion. Wraithform has had its movement bonus increased by from 25% to 50%, and you can now cancel the ability with Primary Fire or Shift. These changes will definitely help Reaper use Wraithform more consistently as an escape tool, especially being able to cancel the form immediately after rounding a corner to surprise a chasing enemy. The movement speed increase will also allow him to better chase down targets, given that he can cancel it whenever he wants rather than having to wait the 4 seconds or so. So this is going to make Reaper much more consistent and unpredictable than before, but which should still hold him in a little bit of a rough spot at the moment, especially since the current map roster is mostly filled with long sight lines that Reaper seems to struggle to have any purchase in making a difference to the game. This might make Reaper the best character in the game, but it probably won't. Moving on to our Mei changes now. Mei's endothermic blaster now passes through enemies. This will make it much easier for Mei to fight multiple targets clumped up together, especially when trying to freeze a specific enemy. This change prevents people from getting in the way of your freeze beam to cancel the effect. This does, however, not pass through barriers still, which are still going to cause Mei a fair bit of problems. This change will actually make her ultimate far more consistent in freezing targets if they're near each other. This probably won't make Mei god tier though, and Blizzard have been careful to try and keep Mei in check as much as they can, as she can feel incredibly frustrating and basically oppressive to play against if she's too strong. So, again, this is more of a quality of life improvement, but a rather significant one at that. Moving on to our nerfs now. Firstly, D.va's micro missiles have been nerfed. The explosive damage has been reduced from 6 to 4, and her booster's impact damage has been reduced from 25 to 10. Overall, this will reduce D.va's burst potential, which was admittedly a little bit too high, especially on large groups of clumped up enemies. However, this won't really affect how D.va will perform against a target that she's isolated, because you'll still be able to get in close and kill them pretty quickly. The reduction of the explosive damage won't really make a difference in that sort of playstyle, so it'll just be reduced overall damage in team fights, which you're not really playing D.va for anyway. You're not playing D.va for her ability to put massive damage out into team fights anyway. You're looking more to pounce on unsuspecting targets that are slightly far away from their team, so I can't really see D.va dropping off the face of the meta just yet. And lastly, what has been considered a nerf to only D.Jonak, one of the best Zenyatas in the world. Zenyatta has had his secondary rate of fire reduced by 15%. Now, this really won't affect the average player. Most players spend their Zenyatta time chunking away at left clicks and healing people, whereas people like D.Jonak are incredibly effective at picking off targets at long range with his alternate fire, and this is seen as a little bit too strong at the top tiers of play. So Zenyatta's going to be still usable, kids. Don't stress too much about it. Don't worry too much about it. You won't see a massive amount of difference in the Zenyatta playstyle because of this change, unless you use your alternate fire incredibly frequently. So, as of course I mentioned before, Blizzard have added an avoid teammate option to Overwatch, which is aimed at reducing toxicity. Basically, you can select up to 2 players to avoid. These players will not be put on your team for 1 week. It's basically as simple as that. Someone's being toxic in your game, you set them as avoid as teammate, and they won't appear in any of your games for at least another week. And of course, you can keep setting them on if you want to. You want to keep avoiding those people, but eventually you'll sort of let it go and you move on to new players who are being salty. So it'll round itself out eventually. Eventually, once you start sort of getting better games, you'll see less salt and so on. Hopefully, at least that's sort of the idea behind it. Once people sort of chill out a bit, they stop seeing people throwing in their games. People will sort of chill out a bit, and hopefully it reduces the actual salt in Overwatch, because it sure does need some toning down. There are, of course, a number of bug fixes, which I won't talk about today, but should make gameplay more consistent. But, of course, as with every major game update the game has, I'm sure something will break somewhere. So, with some of the bug fixes, they always make characters more consistent, such as the numerous bug fixes they've tried to add to Doomfist, which is always making him more consistent pretty much every single patch. They want his punches and fists and stuff like that to be as consistent as possible. Anyway, if you did enjoy this one, make sure you do leave a like and do subscribe if you are new around here. This has been Luke from Less Than Average Gaming, and I hope you guys do have an above average day, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye!